some of you will have to either start your video and show me, or you can show a thumbs up on the Zoom app. I'm still waiting. Okay, Smriti says Chinto says he's fine with it. So are the others also okay with it? Are the others okay with me recording the video of the class today? Kindly switch on your videos and show me a thumbs up if you're okay, then I can start recording. Chandan, are you okay with it? Are you able to hear me, children?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So are you okay with me recording the video?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
okay. So we start with the class. So just a quick recap of what we studied yesterday or day before yesterday, I think, was that there's a family who is who wants to replicate the journey undertaken by Captain James Cook, and there are 4 people in this family. The head of the family, the man, is a businessman who's 37 years old. His wife is Mary, and they have 2 children. They have 2 children. The son, Jonathan, is 6 years old, and daughter Suzanne is 7 years old. They start from Plymouth in England, and they travel on the west coast of Africa. That part of the first half of the journey, the first leg of their journey, is quite pleasant because they did not face any trouble or any problem during that journey. 2 more crew members to their team. Kindly mute yourself, please. Please mute yourself, please. Kindly mute yourself.
Oh, host.
Kindly mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Whoever is not on mute, kindly mute yourself. Chandan, I think you need to mute yourself. Okay, so they add 2 members to their team, an American, Larry Vigil, and Herb Sigler. And the reason why they add 2 more people to their team is that, they are not professionals. So they want to have professionals with them because they have to cross the Indian Ocean, which is considered to be a very, very rough sea. So, when they start from Cape Town, from the very next day, they start to encounter rough weather. And though they celebrate Christmas quite happily, and they expect the weather to change by the new year, but as bad luck would have it, the weather becomes even worse. And they are prepared to face the bad weather because they know that the winds are not going to stop. So they prepare themselves. They take all the emergency precautions that they need to take and wait, because that's the only thing they could do. So when the storm hits the ship, there's water everywhere, and parts of the ship are broken, parts of the wave walker are broken, and it's almost as if it's going to upturn. But it's saved, it doesn't turn, but there's water everywhere, and they desperately try to pump the water out the two crew members, that's Larry and Figler, they try to pump the water out, but the pumps also get damaged. They and whatever pumps they have, then the author remembers that they've got an extra pump somewhere under the chart room. So he tries to start that pump, and somehow they manage to, pump out the water. Okay, so in that, when the storm hits the ship, the author is hurt badly. The wife comes and tells him that there's the part of the deck is broken and there's water everywhere. So he tries to fix, even though he's in a he's hurt. He's thrown from one side to the other, and his ribs are broken. He's in a lot of pain. Yet he continues to see that whatever he can do to save his family and the people on board. So he tries to get a canvas and a hammer and screw, and tries to, cover up the hole that is there through which the water is seeping in. So he manages to control that a little, and meanwhile, he goes and checks the children. They are hurt. The daughter is hurt, and she's got a big bump on the head. But then he does not mind that, because he's not bothered about that. Because what is more important is saving life of everybody who's there on the boat. So what they try to do is, somehow they manage to control the water that's seeping in, and then they can take, and then the next day they could take rest in turns. And while they are trying to pump out the water, and while they are trying to stir the ship, they are also trying to connect to the other ships that would be there in the sea, which is close by, so that they can come and help. Or some, if they could connect to some island or some port that was nearby. But there was nobody who would answer their call. The mayday calls are the stress calls, or the calls that they were trying to make to other people for help. So, till where had we finished? Do you remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Till where did we finish?
Ma'am, page 16, second paragraph, last line, auxiliary engine
Okay,
auto patch.
auxiliary. Okay. So, it was almost 15 hours since they were hit by the storm. And the author knew that they would not last for very long, because to reach Australia, the ship was not in a condition that they could travel so long. So he started thinking to find a way out. So he took out his map and started to find if he could find any island which was close by from the location on which they were in the sea at that time. So he found that there were two islands. One of them was Isle Amsterdam, which was an American scientific base. So he tries to target that island, and the only chance to reach there was that only when the storm stopped, they could set the sail and use the wind to steer the ship in that direction and reach the island, because the main engine of the ship, the auxiliary engine, had stopped working. Okay. On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. Now, we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. So, it was 4th of January, and the storm had hit on 2nd. 3rd, they somehow managed to, pump out the water. By 4th, they were in a better situation, and the situation Okay. So we continue. Just a minute. Let the screen be shared. Okay. So on January 4th, they managed to bring the situation under control. Okay. The pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So we hoisted the strong jib and headed from where I thought the two islands were. So somehow they, they knew that they had to manage to reach that island without starting the engine because the engines were not functioning. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. So 2 days they have been struggling, trying to save their lives. The situation was so bad that, are you able to hear me? Ritik, are you able to hear me? Sumit, are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to hear me, children?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So it was almost 2 days they were struggling to save their lives. So they did not eat, they did not sleep. It was only on the second, okay, thank you. Only on the second day that they got some time to sit. The wife found some sharing the wait, some. So it's on the second day that they got some time to sit and eat something, almost in 2 days. Okay, the situation was so bad that they couldn't take rest, they couldn't eat. The only priority that time was to save their lives. But our respite was short-lived. You know, this relief that they got, respite means a little bit of relief. The relief that they got was very short-lived, was for a very short period. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots and the seas were getting higher. So again, on the third day, it so happened that the weather started to become bad again by the evening. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night. So by evening, it started to become, the clouds were there in the sky and the wind speed had increased to 40 knots. And by the night, the weather was even bad than what it was during the evening. And by dawn on January 5th, our situation was again desperate. So the situation was back to what it was on 2nd of January when the storm had hit. So the respite that they got, the relief that they got was only for one day or for a very short period of time. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, Daddy, are we going to die? I tried to assure him that we could make it. But Daddy, he went on, we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Sue and I. So, they know that they are in a bad situation. So the narrator goes and talks to his children. The little boy, he's so afraid, he asks his father that, are we all going to die? So the father tries to assure him that, things would be fine, and it's not that they're going to die or anything like that. They were trying to come out of it. But the little boy says, Daddy, I'm not afraid to even die if we are all together, if our whole family is together, you and mommy and my sister and I, if we are all together, I'm not afraid to even die. So the little boy is showing so much of courage. The author is so touched, he feels that, he has to do everything to save his family, because there is nothing more important in this world than the family. The money that you have, or the friends that you have, the job that you have is not going to help you. It is your family who's going to support you in the time of distress, in the time of need, when you need them. It is your family who's going to be by your side. So that bonding you can see in this family. And the little boy, when he says that, I'm not afraid, even if we have to die because of the storm, I'm not afraid, because you are all there with me. My family is there with me. So I'm not afraid. I could find no words with which to respond. The father is speechless. He doesn't know what to say to the child, because he's showing so much of courage. But I left the children's cabin, determined to fight the sea with everything I had. So when the child says, that I'm not afraid, because we are all together, we are there to support each other and to, see that we can be there for each other. The father does not say anything. He has no words what to respond to his little child. But his determination to save his family is multiplied 10 times. And he is determined now to find a way out and do anything that he can to see that his family is safe and they are all, protected. To protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave. With the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming wave, using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt the end was very near. They tried to slow down, the speed of the ship by trying to attach two plastic barrels of paraffin to a nylon rope and trying to put it in the water so that the ship would slow down a little, so that there is less damage, because they were hit again by the storm and the damaged part of the ship was very weak. It was allowing the water to seep in. And by the evening, both husband and wife, they sat holding each other's hand. And, it was like trying to give support to each other, trying to tell each other that everything would be fine and they need not worry. And, both the parents, they were worried. They knew that though they were all together, but they could feel that the end was very near. It was very, very difficult to survive that storm. They had to be really lucky if they could make out of that storm. But Wave Walker rode out of the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextant. Now, sextant is a instrument that is used to measure the degrees and it's used in the ship. So he tried to find where they were, trying to locate where the ship was. Once on 6th of January, when the storm eased a little, the speed of the wind reduced a little, he tried to, again find a way out to save his family. So he tried to find the reading. Back in the chart room, I worked on the wind speed, changes of course, drift, and current in an effort to calculate our position. So he tried to work on the instruments of whatever was left, because some of the instruments had also got damaged. So whatever he could use, whatever instrument was working, he tried to find the location. He tried to gauge the current and the speed of the wind and all that, and tried to find a way out to find where they were and how they could save themselves. The best I could determine was that that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean, looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. So what he could understand was, in the vast ocean that was there, almost 150,000 kilometers of vast ocean, they were looking for a small island that was only 65 kilometers wide. While I was thinking, Sue, moving painfully, joined me. While the father was trying to find a way out, the little girl comes and joins her father. The left side of her head was now very swollen. The left side of her head was badly swollen, and her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. So her eyes, she was hurt so badly that her eyes were swollen and it became only slits, like only she could open a little bit of her eyes. And she looked cheeky eyes, just like the Chinese have very small eyes and they can open it's a very, very little of it. The same way, her eyes also were very narrow and it was just like slits, just like small openings. She gave me a card she had made, and the little girl, when all this was happening, she made a little card, small card for her father. And on the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me. She had drawn her father and mother, though she was not an artist, but whatever she wanted to communicate to her parents, she had drawn her father and mother, and she had written these words. Here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh? She had written that these are funny people. Her father and mother are very funny. And she's asking a question that did they make you laugh? So the caricatures that she had made there, she meant that those two caricatures, the figures that she had drawn, the father and the mother, were funny people. And she wanted to relieve the stress of her parents, because the children were also aware that both her parents were stressed, knowing that they were in a difficult situation, knowing that it is quite possible that they might not survive the storm. So she had made that card just to make her father and mother feel a little happy and relaxed. So the father was so happy and so touched that he laughed a lot. And inside the card, she had written, "Oh, how I love you both." So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. So that little girl also, Jonathan tries to encourage the father by saying that, don't worry, dad, I'm not afraid because we are all together. The little girl in her own way tries to, be supportive to the family by saying that, I love you both and I want to say thank you and let's hope for the best. She also says that let's hope that things become better and we are able to save our lives. Somehow we had to make it. Now father's determination to save the family is multiplied even more. I checked and rechecked my calculations. We had lost our main compass and I was using a spare which had not been corrected for magnetic variation. So, because of the water everywhere in the ship, they had lot of instruments had got spoiled, as I told you. So the father was checking and rechecking, trying to make his calculations, because the compass, you know what is a compass? It is an instrument that shows the direction.
Direction.
Yes, it shows the
Yes, ma'am.
direction. We normally use it. Your geography teacher must have shown you when you were in 9 and 10. That's normally used to find the direction. That's an instrument that is used to find the direction. So the main compass that they had on the ship, you know, that was lost in the water that was there in the ship. And he was using a spare one, which was not very accurate and had not been corrected. Okay, it had not been corrected, but somehow he managed to use that to find the direction. I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents which flow through this part of Indian Ocean. So he was trying to make the calculation based on whatever the spare compass he had, and he made some allowance for mistakes also. You know, maybe 10 to 20% of fluctuation might be there in the direction, because the magnetic compass that he had found was not corrected. Okay, so he tried to find he tried to estimate the current, the water current, the westerly current that was there, which normally flows in the Indian Ocean. And about 2 p.m., I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. So with all his calculations that he had done using the compass and other instruments that were there on board, he tries to find a way out, and he goes to the deck and instructs Larry to change the direction of the ship, to change the direction of the ship to 185 degrees. And if we were lucky, I told him with a conviction I did not feel, he could expect to see the island at 5 p.m. So he says that, you know, if we are lucky enough, he says that it was 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and by his calculation, he instructs Larry to change the direction of the ship to 185 degrees. And he says that if we are lucky enough, if good luck is there with us, we will be able to find the island by 5 p.m. Though he was not very sure, he did not say it with a lot of conviction, because he still had a lot of doubt, because the instruments were not working properly. They had got spoiled. The compass was not configured. And so he said, if we are lucky, we'll find the island. Maybe. He was, you know, half-heartedly, not sure. It was a 50-50 chance of being lucky enough to finding the island. Then with a heavy heart, I went below. So he was, you know, he had still had doubts in his mind. When he said that you changed the course of the ship and we might hit the island by 5 o'clock in the evening, he was not very sure. So with a heavy heart, you know, he's not very happy about the decision that he has taken. So not very happy, still sad, he went down into the bunk that was there. He climbed on my bunk, I went below, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. Now it had been 3-4 days since they had been struggling without sleep, without food, and he was dead tired. So when he went down to take rest for some time, when he climbed the bunk, when he climbed his bed, he just switched off and went off to sleep. When I woke up, it was 6 p.m. and growing dark. So when he woke up, it was almost 6 in the evening. I knew we must have missed the island, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly wind. So it was 6 o'clock, and he woke up again, and when he realized that by now they should have found the island. So when he saw that it was 6 o'clock in the evening, he became a little sad, because he knew that they must have missed the island. His calculation was not correct. Otherwise, if they were lucky enough, by now they should have seen the island. They should have sighted the island. And he was aware that it was not possible to turn the ship with the kind of current that was there in the sea during that time, the westerly current, to again change the course and try to hunt for that island. Okay, because it was almost evening time. And in the night, it becomes difficult to find the island. At that moment, a tousled head appeared by my bunk. Can I have a hug? Jonathan asked. So while he was there, a head popped up beside his bunk. And who was that? It was his son, Jonathan. He comes and says, can I give you a hug? Can I have a hug? Jonathan asked. Sue was right behind him. So both the children come and the son asked that, can I hug you? Can I give you a hug? So the father is very surprised when his children come and ask that whether they can come and give a hug to him. So why am I getting a hug now? He asked. Okay, because you are the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain, my son replied. So the author is very surprised when both the children come and, they come and tell him that, can we give you a hug? So the father says, why are you asking to get a hug now? So the little boy says that because you are the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain. Not today, John. I'm afraid. So the father is not very happy. Even when the children come and tell him that you are the best dad in the world and you are the best captain. So he says, no, I am not in a mood to give you a hug at all. I am really afraid deep within. I'm really afraid whether I'll be able to save you all or not. So I'm not in a mood to give you a hug. Why, you must be, said Sue in a matter-of-fact voice. You found the island. What? I shouted. It's out there in front of us, they chorused, as big as a battleship. So when the father says, that I'm not in a mood to give you a hug because I'm really scared within, that we must have missed the island and we may not be able to save ourselves. But the little girl says that why you must be afraid? You have already found the island. So the author becomes very excited and he says, what? Have we found it? So the little boy says, yes, it is right there in front of us. And it is as huge as a battleship. We can see the island right in front of our eyes. I rushed on deck and gazed with relief at the stark outline of the Isle Amsterdam. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. So he rushes on to the deck, and when he sees the outline of the Isle Amsterdam, he is relieved because, now they could be saved. And that island seems to be the most beautiful island on the world because the island would save their lives. We anchored offshore for the night, and the next morning, all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered as they helped us ashore. So they anchored, they did not go to the island in the night, they put their anchors beside the island in the night. They did not go to the island. And the next morning, the people who were there, it was a French island. We've studied that, no? It was a French scientific base. So there were 28 people who were there and who were there living on that island doing the experiments. So all those 28 inhabitants means the people who live there. So all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered as they helped us ashore. They welcomed this family and the other 2 crew members of the team on the island. With land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbie. Cheerful and optimistic under the direct stress, and of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. So, the moment they stepped onto the island, and he could feel the land underneath his feet, his thoughts were how his family and how his team members had behaved under that stressful situation. Both the team members had really worked hard to see that, they were saved. Mary helped him out to stay at the wheel for long hours, even during that crucial hours when he was going and making the repairs of the ship. And most of all, I thought of a 7-year-old girl who did not want us to worry about her head injury, which subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and the skull, and of a 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. So, the moment he is there on the land, he's filled with all those memories of how these people, how his family, his little boy and little girl, his wife, and the other two members had behaved. They were happy and cheerful and optimistic, even under the stressful situation. They had helped, tried to help him out, and this is what is actual teamwork. And he thought about his children, the little girl who was hurt so badly. She was in so much of pain, but she did not want to trouble her parents by telling them that she was in so much of pain. And that little girl had to undergo 6 minor operations to remove the blood clot that was there between the skin and the skull. She had to undergo 6 operations later on once they were back. And that little boy who was not afraid to die. They were all very optimistic and they had all behaved very bravely, even in that toughest situation. Okay, so I would quickly want you to go through the part that we have done today, and if you have any doubts, then please ask. You may unmute yourself and ask if you have any queries. Any of you have any queries? Please ask. Feel free to ask. Yes, Sumit, do you have any query?
Ma'am, I'm not read the book.
You haven't read the chapter. Okay. Never mind. What I would suggest is, if you haven't read it, before we start the next chapter, or when I give you the work that has to be done, go through the chapter. And if you feel there is something that you haven't understood, you feel free to message me or ask me. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Others, anybody has any doubts? Achinto, have you understood? Smriti,
Yes, ma'am.
Deepak, Pragya,
Yes, ma'am.
Chandan,
Yes, ma'am.
Ankush,
Chandan.
Tarkeshwar, Ashutosh, Roshni. Any doubts? Feel free to ask, children. Don't
Ma'am,
hesitate.
I have one small query.
Yes, please ask.
Ma'am, why the team thought that the island was the most beautiful island in the world?
Sorry. Yes, most beautiful, because it was saving their life. They had reached that island and they would be saved. So it was the most beautiful thing for them. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, any other doubts? Yes, Ritik, I'll send the recording. I'll share it on the group. Those who have joined in later can see the recording. And if you still have doubts, then we can clarify those before our next class. So if nobody has any doubts, should we close the class for the day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you very much, children. I will be
Thank you.
sending you the questions and the text that you have to write in your notebook a little later. We'll be starting with The next chapter, are we left with one more, I believe? There's one more chapter that's left. Just let me check. Okay, I'll check the portion that is sent by the CBSE, and whichever chapter is left, we'll do. Otherwise, I'll be sending you some grammar exercises to solve. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
So, thank you so much. Good night and take rest.